Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into a truly fascinating phenomenon of the human mind. We're going to explore that super delicate space where the line between a healthy imagination and an all-consuming need to escape, well, really starts to blur. So, have you ever caught yourself just drifting away into an imaginary world? Creating these totally elaborate stories, characters, or running whole conversations in your head. Honestly, for most of us, daydreaming is completely normal. In fact, it's actually incredibly healthy. It sparks creativity, helps us process complex emotions, or just gives our busy minds a much-needed break from the daily grind. Section 1. Beyond normal daydreaming, when escape takes over. Now, for most of us, normal daydreaming lasts just a few minutes, right? It gives us a little creative spark, and then we move on. But for some folks, this mental break turns into something much, much more intense. We're talking about maladaptive daydreaming, which can literally consume entire hours. Over time, that world inside the mind slowly becomes incredibly vivid, and honestly, in a lot of cases, way more appealing than actual reality. So, what exactly is it? Maladaptive daydreaming is defined as excessive, immersive daydreaming that starts to actively interfere with everyday life. Now, while it isn't officially classified as a disorder in the DSM-5 just yet, psychologists are studying it heavily. And the reason why is because of how profoundly it disrupts a person's actual life. We're talking about folks failing classes, missing critical work deadlines, or just completely neglecting their physical health and social circles. The actual term maladaptive daydreaming was first introduced by psychologist Dr. Eli Sommer back in 2002. And this was a huge deal because it gave a name and a much-needed psychological framework to a really profound experience that so many people were dealing with in total silence. Section 2. Inside imaginary worlds, a vivid reality. To be absolutely clear, we are not just talking about staring blankly out a window here. People experiencing this create deeply complex, almost cinematic stories. They have detailed, recurring characters and evolving plots. These are emotionally intense situations. It often involves physically acting things out, like pacing back and forth, making facial expressions, or even quietly whispering imagined dialogue. Hours. I really want to emphasize the staggering reality of the time lost here. Someone might intend to just zone out for a few short minutes, right? But they get pulled in, and suddenly, poof, entire hours have simply vanished from their day. Section 3. The roots of escapism, coping mechanisms. So why does this happen? Well, researchers believe it develops as a seriously powerful psychological coping mechanism. When reality becomes overwhelming, lonely, or just emotionally painful, the mind steps in and builds a safer inner world. For folks who have experienced long-term loneliness, trauma, or chronic stress, these imagined worlds feel incredibly comforting. Inside their minds, they can finally feel understood, they feel stronger, admired, or just deeply emotionally connected. This whole cycle usually kicks off with a really simple trigger. It could be listening to music, feeling bored, or even repetitive activities like pacing. That trigger pulls them right into the daydream, which creates a huge dopamine rush in the brain, that chemical linked to feeling rewarded. And because of that dopamine hit, it starts to look a lot like an addictive pattern. Whole hours are lost, kind of like the urge to binge watch the next episode of a gripping TV show. The final heartbreaking step? Real-life neglect. Actual relationships wither away, and daily obligations are just completely abandoned. Section 4. When reality fades, the cost of escapism. Inside that imagined world, a person feels totally safe, admired, and emotionally connected. It's rich, it's rewarding, but by stark contrast, their actual real world might feel overwhelmingly lonely and painful. And here's the rub. When escapism becomes the absolute primary way someone copes with life, they start mentally withdrawing. Everyday responsibilities and real flesh and blood relationships just start to feel incredibly dull and completely unengaging compared to that vibrant imaginary life. This right here is the escapism trap, and it's a critical one. The more time you spend inside, the harder it is to return. When an escape fully replaces real-world coping, stepping back into reality feels, honestly, impossibly difficult. The brain actually begins to rely almost entirely on daydreaming just to regulate emotions. What does that mean for the person? It means their real-world conflict resolution skills and social abilities actually begin to atrophy. Section 5. Finding balance, grounding techniques. Now, if you or someone you know experiences this, don't worry. There are highly effective, actionable steps that psychologists recommend. Step 1. Identify your triggers. Try to recognize exactly when and why these daydreaming episodes begin. Step 2. Practice grounding techniques. This means actively focusing your attention on physical sensations or your immediate environment, just to pull your mind back into the present moment. Step 3. Use structured creative outlets. Channel all that massive imagination into productive art, storytelling, or writing instead of just letting it consume your day. And finally, step 4. Seek professional help. Chatting with a mental health professional can really help you explore and address those deeper emotional needs that these daydreams are currently fulfilling. It's so important to remember that the goal here is absolutely not to eliminate your imagination. It's just about finding balance. A rich inner world is a tremendous gift. I mean, so many artists, writers, and creative thinkers rely heavily on it. If you frequently drift into extended daydreams, it doesn't necessarily mean something is inherently wrong with you. It simply means your mind developed a super powerful way to cope with difficult emotions. But ultimately, the real goal is to build a real life that is meaningful enough that escaping it is no longer necessary. Which brings us to our final thought for today. Sometimes the most powerful story is the one we begin to live in the real world. And that leaves us with a really critical question to ask ourselves. What beautiful, challenging, and incredibly rewarding parts of your real